Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Marsha.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
That kid starts to get away with murder.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
Yeah, watch what I can do.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas so you don't have to.
And it's just like coming out of the forest at the end of Apocalypse Now, just like, what? Who am I?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. Today, we're talking about what happens when one of your kids is taking all of your parenting bandwidth.
Gee, Amy, I don't know anything about that experience.
Let's define the issue. Let's define the issue first. Bandwidth is your available capacity or resources as a person, right?
Mentally and physically, I guess.
There's the emotional bandwidth, like I can't hear about your sister's wedding right now. I'm too tired. There's logistical, I'm fried and I can't decide what's for dinner.
Yes.
It can also be literal bandwidth. Like I don't have the time because it's hockey season and it's taking all of my time, my free time is being spent in the car, or your money. There's some more literal examples of bandwidth.
I sometimes think of this as an emergency, like one of my children is sick and hospitalized for 6 months, and like that takes all my bandwidth. Or one of my children has medical needs, special needs, whatever it might be, that feels like it's taking all of my bandwidth, like these big things. But it can also be seasonal stuff and less overwhelming stuff, I guess.
Well, that's just it.
I shouldn't say less overwhelming. I just, you know what I mean? Like I'm thinking of
less permanent.
Oh my God, the kid broke her leg and this whole summer has got to be about getting her around.
Right. This is totally, your mileage may vary, right? But these are all different. So that's another way that it can show up, that like sometimes it is a season, I was going to call it.
Yes.
A storm blowing through. This fall, I have a kid applying to college. That's an intense bandwidth, literal, logistical bandwidth sucker for me that I know is coming this fall. It's okay. It's a season, right? I know it's coming. I'm not also going to
take up the violin
this fall. Right, yes. Right, exactly. Like I know my September to November is going to be pretty busy. Or like I said, travel hockey. I'm using that example because I have nieces and nephews who play hockey. And in season, ice time is when it is. It might be 5:30 in the morning. And if they don't have a driver's license yet, then you're driving them. But that's not forever.
God, I'm so glad my children had no athletic ability. Oh, thank God. Thank you, Lord.
Hockey is an intense one. So is baseball, because baseball, the game itself is like 3.5 hours long. And then sometimes it's double headers. I mean, yeah. Mamas, don't let your kids grow up to be baseball players who play double headers.
I'm going to put in a real vote for track and cross country. It's really easy.
Soccer's a tight 90. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And basketball's inside.
Yeah.
Basketball might be the best because it's not weather dependent. But yeah, so that sometimes there's a season and sometimes it is more of a this is how it is situation. You have a kid with chronic needs. You have a kid with chronic illness. You have a kid who's nonverbal. It's the part of the fabric of the family that you have.
Or you have a kid whose emotional set point is to needy and a kid whose emotional set point is to independent.
Sure.
We definitely have had a conversation, my spouse and I, where we're like, okay, tomorrow we have to remember to pay attention to fill in the blank of our kid who is not needy at all. But that doesn't mean they don't have needs. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
sometimes it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease and this kid never squeaks. And so it's truly like Jan Brady sometimes, oldie Lux alert.
Back in my day.
But like Jan was the middle girl and it was always like her older sister was named Marcia. And it was always Marcia. Like Marcia gets all the attention and Jan was just the also-ran.
But she took up a lot of bandwidth because she complained all the time. She was the love measure in that family.
Yeah, she really was. But I do think this can happen kind of naturally when you have multiple kids and there's just a kid who talks all through dinner every single night or whatever it is. They just take up more bandwidth.
Or an explosive kid who like might blow at any time and tiptoeing around that. Don't sing because that kid doesn't like it when you sing, right? Whatever you do, like let's keep that kid from blowing can take up a lot of bandwidth and can be something that becomes kind of chronic without you realizing it sometimes.
For sure.
Avoiding the kid who's really emotional blowing.
Been there. Yep.
Or they're challenging. Like you said, sometimes a kid demands attention. Sometimes they can just be challenging. They can be defiant, oppositional, whatever. And that takes a lot of bandwidth.
Or they can even be like a super adorable 6-year-old who's just like 24 hours a day, watch my tap routine in my, sparkly outfit in the living room. Like there's different ways to demand attention.
And it can also be for good reasons, for wonderful reasons. Like one of your kids got a part on a TV show. One of your kids is a state level tennis player. One of your kids is, a star in some way, has some exceptional ability that is very exciting, but which the whole family has to revolve around for a little time or a long time. So all of these things, right? So there are big reasons and there are small reasons and there are hard reasons and there are wonderful reasons why your bandwidth can be unevenly applied to your kids. Not even unfairly necessarily, but that's not without cost.
Yes.
And then I think we spend time feeling guilty about it.
I think that this is dynamic that can be quite damaging and maybe not damaging forever, but this is a dynamic that I watch for a lot in the family because I do think that some of this stuff happens passively and some of it happens actively. I think if there is the good child, the bad child, the problem child, this is the picky eater, like as you lean into definitions of people in the family, it can kind of calcify those roles in a way that's probably not the most healthy thing in the world.
In terms of bandwidth, it can be the quote unquote good kid, golden child that is taking up all your bandwidth, right? Like she has to be driven to auditions 3 times a week. So, bandwidth is a little bit, it's part of that, but it can move independently of that. It isn't like sometimes the good kid is the kid, as you were saying, like, God, I have to remember to pay some attention to Brian tomorrow because he just always goes with the flow and when his sister is tantruming all the time. Right.
Yes.
Right. There is a cost to that attention, literal, like attention, time, trying to do things, trying not to do things in support of one member of the family can throw the ecosystem off. Or worse, become the ecosystem. It becomes the weather.
Right. It becomes the water you're swimming in.
It becomes a climate.
I think another thing that is really worth talking about, because I've been there, is why is this happening? Why is this kid taking up all the bandwidth? And what is our role in it? And is this a choice we are actively making? How is it serving us? Is it serving us? And I'm not saying the solution to all of this is quit travel soccer, don't let the kid audition anymore. But I think sometimes these kind of family dynamics and roles are like a fast moving current that we're just sitting in and we just don't realize how much control we have over this. And I think this can sometimes be the most important step, really defining which child is taking up all the bandwidth, why, and are those active choices that we're making or passive choices we're making?
Right. And is it controllable or not?
Is it controllable or not?
Well, let's go through all the different reasons that a kid can take up your bandwidth because some of them are just patently uncontrollable and some of them are very controllable. So I think that's an important variable to figure out. So let's talk about the impact of a sick kid, a kid who is high needs because they're sick or because they're high needs. There was a study done out of Lancaster University about the impact of a sick or high needs child on the healthy siblings. The study referenced the finding that parents tend to underestimate the emotional toll on the other kids. This totally rang true to me when I heard this, that you say, they seem fine. They say they're doing great. Thank goodness. The rest of the kids are fine. They're functioning great. But really, the other kids are often just sublimating their own needs because there's no room for them. Because my sister's in the hospital right now.
Right. And what kind of jerk are you going to be like, well, I need more even though my sister has cancer? Like, no kid is going to say that, you know?
Right. Exactly. I'm not going to cry that I don't like mashed potatoes when this thing is going on, that I see the toll it's taking on my parents. So the siblings, the studies show that they have changing family relationships. Of course, it changes the family dynamic, but it also changes the way that those kids see themselves in those situations, about their right to be the squeaky wheel, once in a while, right? Or to get a B, or to throw a tantrum, or to make a mistake.
Right.
I think it's all going to come down to, in the end, no matter what kind of bandwidth sucking we're talking about, that it's about seeing it for what it is, right? Addressing it, facing it honestly yourself and with your parenting partner, if you have one, and then addressing it with your kids. Because this study found that, in particular, parental silence about the issue of the sick kid in the family, which there tended to be. We do tend, when one kid is sick, like, we're just going to play it totally normal at home, right? There's no reason to upset Brian, and we're still going to go to a soccer game, whatever. But this sort of, let's not talk about it, doesn't lead to a sense of calm. It leads instead to confusion.
I mean, see, also, your marriage stinks. You are in conflict with your own family.
Right.
When my mom was dying, I was reluctant to talk about it for 850 different reasons, but I could just sense the tidal shift in my household so quickly that the kids were getting anxious, because I wasn't saying anything about it, but they were still drawing off of me and being like, oh, something's really, really wrong. And I finally sat down and was like, okay, here's what's going on.
Yeah. There's a crackle in the air, right? That they pick up on. I wanted to make one more point on this study that I thought was fascinating, that they found that sometimes the sick child, if there's a sick child in your family, will get less discipline out of pity or stress on the part of the parents, that kid starts to get away with murder. And that is not a great situation either. And certainly something that the other kids will pick up on, that your kid gets to get away with anything if they just say they're not feeling well today.
Yeah.
Something to watch out for. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about more ways that kids can take up all our bandwidth. Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
Okay, so let's talk about siblings with disruptive or difficult behavior.
I don't know anything about that at all.
No idea. No idea what you're talking about.
Let's read what other people say about that.
I think that when we say this, if you know, you know. One child who sets the mood for the family. If they're having a good day, everyone's having a good day. If they're having a bad day, everybody's having a bad day. It's just this person's mood regulates the whole household. Sometimes I think that can be the spouse as well. I mean, I'm being gendered, but I think sometimes this can be the father. But when you're talking about a child, it's the squeaky wheel in a kind of behavioral way. And this could be a child with a diagnosis: oppositional defiant, autism, ADHD, any kind
depression
of
or
bipolar,
anxiety,
mood regulation, mental illness. And that for kind of survival instincts, the family kind of moves into a mode of, let's not bother this person. We have a problem that is the center of what's going on in our households, but we don't know the solution to that problem. And so our solution to that problem is to just make ourselves as small and quiet as possible so that the problem doesn't explode. You're living with a tiger in the house. We used to have a member of our family who had a really hard time in the morning. And we would sometimes be like, the tiger is up and angry. And I think also secrecy comes into this very quickly. You're out of control. You're not doing a good enough job. Nobody can find out that we have a kid who is out of control in the house. You know, you talk to people, and the amount of people who would say they've ever been scared of their own child is a huge number of people.
Yeah.
It's a huge
That's a lot of
number
bandwidth.
people.
Right.
I think that's such a frightening thing to say out loud. Then the secrecy becomes on top of it, that you don't want to talk about what's going on. And
you
so
mean like
then
nobody can know? Nobody else can know that we have a kid
somehow
that's
feels very
disruptive?
shameful. I don't have control over my house and home. I don't have control over my out of control child, and I'm scared of them.
When this one member of the family who's irascible, let's just say, really short fuse, the other family members will turn on one another. Like, why did you do that? Why did you say this like that? Why did you chew that loudly?
Right.
Whatever.
You know.
You
Right.
know
they
that
don't
X
like it
doesn't
when
like
you
X, right? And you turn on one another, which is obviously unhealthy, but it's something that can kind of seep in. Let's keep the peace, and the people we will get mad at when they're not peaceful is like, it's not my fault, it was your fault. You shouldn't have done that. And that can be, it has to be addressed, because it's really hard, I think, when kids see that a sibling is getting away with things they wouldn't get away with. Even if it's for,
this is also,
they have a diagnosis and you don't. It's hard for kids to understand.
This is also, I think, a thing that happens where I'm picturing like two parallel lines, and then they diverge by like a half an inch in opposite directions, and it doesn't seem like a big deal. But then like 5 miles down the road, they're 10 miles apart, the lines. And I think it's like, or the frog in the water, that the frog doesn't sense the water getting hotter, that you start making very small adjustments. And then over time, you find yourself in situations where you don't recognize yourself. You don't recognize your household. You're all like literally creeping around, being quiet because we can't wake the bear. And it's just, I think that this is a reckoning place to say like that central thing, especially if there's a diagnosis involved, that it can feel like that toe creeping around the bear is the only possible solution. That's where you have to start and really stare this problem down and say, we deserve to not live like this. Yeah. And to acknowledge this is really hard on other members of the family. And I think that sometimes it's as simple as saying, this is really hard right now. I know it can be really scary when that person yells and they're having trouble controlling their emotions, but that behavior is fundamentally not okay. Just sort of trying to name stuff, because I think it's that we're all creeping around because there's a tiger in the house, but we are never allowed to say the word tiger. That's part of where it gets so bad.
I think that's exactly right. I think that realizing what this is and naming it and acknowledging it in age-appropriate ways really helps. If you can be honest with the other kids, it can feel tricky, but to be honest with the kids, like, I know this is hard right now. Your brother, your sister has anxiety and it's making them really hair trigger right now. And it's hard to be around. And I see what you're doing. I see how you're trying to help. And I know it must feel really unfair sometimes that we're dealing with this. And I just want to say, like, I understand it's hard for you, rather than gaslighting them into like, what do you mean? We treat you exactly the same, when they can definitely see that you don't. The rules are enforced for the 8-year-old and not the 10-year-old. Or just never talking about it.
Or just never talking about it at all. Never acknowledging that there's anything going on, I think, is the worst option. And I think that foundationally, like, some of these are really hard situations. I worked at a children's hospital. Literally one time I was there for an event or something. This was probably 20 years ago. And I think now they're doing a lot more work with families on how this was. But I was there for an hour and I was like, wow, these are some really tough family dynamics. The sick kid tended to be like kind of spoiled and obnoxious, because they never got told no. And you could kind of see it all playing out. And I do know that they're working more with families with kids who have chronic illnesses because it's super hard. It changes. It throws all the rules out the window and you get lost in it. Of course. Who wants to discipline a kid who is sick?
It's important, I think. This is a situation, whether it's like the sick kid who only wants mommy or the, cranky kid who missed a nap and like, let's just let him look at his phone while he eats dinner, right? That you can make these decisions that do provide short-term relief, but what you're losing along the way is long-term balance, and you have to keep an eye on this. It's just awareness. Like, why is my bandwidth why am I overwhelmed all the time? Oh, it's because this is happening. And in this case, it might be you're accommodating one family member's needs or avoiding one family member's blow-ups. And you're winning the minute, but you're losing the month because you're not addressing the problem.
This is such a good point, and this is why it's hard. And this is parenting in general. Being aware of which choice you're making when, I think, is very, very important. And the idea of like, it's easier for me to do everything for the kids if it leads to kids who can't do anything for themselves. That's short-term relief, not long-term balance. And I think that's right. Like, we have an explosive child. And so the most important thing is that, like, we never do anything that upsets that child. Your long-term balance is in big trouble there, and it's very, very hard. But I do think giving it voice, maybe you've got Bobby, who's very mild-mannered, and Julia, who's super explosive, and saying like, this is Bobby's day. We're going to bring you, somebody may have to stand outside with you, but we're doing Bobby's thing. It's Bobby's day today.
And you can also, on the positive side, acknowledge the cooperation when it exists, right?
Absolutely.
You're going to have to behave today and that's just how it is. It can also be like, hey, I really noticed that when we found out that there were going to be extra innings in the baseball game that you were tired, but you didn't complain and you said, I just want to thank you because I know that's not necessarily where you wanted to be on this hot summer night. Just like we're supposed to do with our spouses. Those little acknowledges, I saw what you did. Good job there on that quiet cooperation. That the small efforts, if you acknowledge them along the way, I have seen my kids really respond to that, really be really sit up with surprise, right? Like, oh, yeah, I did do a good job.
Absolutely. All right, we'll be back and talk even more about kids who are taking all of our bandwidth. Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
After finally getting out of the late night wake up and diaper changing hell of early childhood, are you now finding your Saturday mornings too relaxing?
Try youth sports.
With youth sports, those relaxing mornings lying around in bed while the kids pour themselves cereal and watch iPads are gone forever. Instead, you'll be up at the sunrise again.
Everybody up, it's 6:15.
Or maybe even earlier.
Honey, where are you going? It's 3 a.m.
I just realized Dexter's hockey jersey for tomorrow is still in the dirty clothes pile. I need to go start the laundry.
Youth sports brings you closer together with your offspring as you get to interact with them starting at the very break of day.
Get up, get up. The game starts in an hour and it's like 3 counties over.
I'm tired.
Have you been missing out on chances to commune with nature? With youth sports, you'll be outside no matter the weather.
Wow, it's 33 degrees and sleeting. And they're still not calling this Little League game. How character building.
And you'll see parts of your township and even state that you never thought to explore.
Geez, I never even knew this part of Bridgeport existed. Who'd have guessed there'd be soccer fields all the way over here behind this abandoned power plant?
And mom time, you'll get plenty of face-to-face with new friends as you sit for hours together on the sidelines with little chance of escape.
You look exhausted. Did I tell you I sell moisturizer? Here, give me your hand. You have to try it. You should join my team in my downline. I also have a side business in statement bangles. Have I told you about it?
With hours of driving home from far-flung tournaments, you'll get precious bonding time with your kiddo at the end of each day.
Tough loss, sweetheart, but you played really well.
Mom, do not talk to me.
Youth sports. You've been warned.
All right, let's spend a little time on the positive overachievement that causes bandwidth to be disrupted. Part of this is the way of the world, right? My sister sent me a picture it was a meme of Chris Farley. I don't know what movie it was from, but Chris Farley just looking all disheveled, like he just walked out of an explosion or something. And the meme over it said, siblings at a baseball game who've been playing underneath the bleachers for 2 hours when it's time to go home. And it's just like coming out of the forest at the end of Apocalypse Now. What? Who am I? Filthy off. My younger siblings spent a good portion of their childhoods under the bleachers at basketball games. And I think a little bit of that is healthy, but it can tip into you don't get to have an activity. You don't get to play this because we're spending the money on the ice skates or whatever it is that needs to be looked at, checked, or at least acknowledged.
Sure. And we definitely have talked about that siblings de-identify to differentiate themselves. I had two siblings who were incredibly intellectually gifted, went to Ivy League schools, were constantly praised for being the smartest kids in the world, which God bless them, they were. And I basically was like,
watch this.
Yeah, watch what I can do. I was under the bleachers, but not playing with my siblings. I was going to de-identify. And it wasn't that profound. It didn't turn out to be that big of a deal. But I do think this is something we've talked about, writing down your family values, for example, as an exercise. And then are we really doing that? Because I think that most people, I'm talking to myself to be clear, our family values are being together, love, maybe celebrating our faith if you're a religious family. The things that we often list very near the top of the most important values of our family, our actions are not always totally in line with that. You know what I mean? Because life gets in the way. And it doesn't mean you can't be a loving family and have an elite athlete. But I think that really looking at why are we doing the things we're doing? Are they making us happy? And is it working for every member of the family? And it doesn't mean that if it's not, you quit baseball.
Right. It doesn't mean you quit. Right.
It just means that you say, maybe we need to pay attention to Julia a little bit more tomorrow because she's the only person who doesn't play elite sports. And I wonder how that makes her feel. It's doing a little bit of an audit of what are we doing? How is it working? Making sure that you're not just like being pulled along by your choices, I would say.
One of the other things about giftedness, if you have a kid that's gifted in any sense, is that they do get a lot of external praise. And that, again, it doesn't mean, okay, I guess we have to give up on their ice skating career because their brother feels bad. But it's just something to circle. It's something to circle and acknowledge. And what are we going to do about that? If this is something that's going to continue, how are we going to watch our family dynamic and balance it so that this kid gets attention from us? Maybe the kid doesn't go to every practice. They don't have to sit there and hear how wonderful their sister is while they're, looking at their mom's phone again. And because this is so boring, like maybe you figure out how to have your other kid less present for some of that. I don't think it means nobody can ever leave the house. It just means that you just acknowledge and here's a not great byproduct of it that I want to do something about.
And is there stuff that I should be counter-programming in some way? Like I've definitely had children who were getting just basically everywhere they went an extreme amount of praise and feedback that they were adorable, charming, like just a very cute, adorable child. And it doesn't mean that they come home and I'm like, no, you're not, you're ugly, you're nothing, But what are the messages that are already all set for this kid? As you said, like we are silent a lot of times because we're busy and we're not paying attention to stuff. But as you look at like what the world is telling your child about themselves, and sometimes, I love to see my kids like up on stage and killing it and being the center of attention and being praised. Like I love that feeling. But I also want to make sure that I'm not accidentally giving them the message of I love you best when you are the center of attention and when you are performing. I want to give them the message of this is one part of what you do and it's really fun to watch. Like, I don't think anyone would ever say, I only love my kid because they're great at baseball, or I only love my kid because they are the valedictorian of their high school. But are you accidentally giving that message?
I used to do sitcoms, and one of the sitcoms I was on for like a year and a half was one that had a lot of kids on it, professional kids. And I was not a parent at the time, but watched the dynamic. And I'm not saying your kid shouldn't do showbiz. Maybe it's the right answer for your family. But in these situations, among some of these families, boy, like you think a sick kid can do whatever they want. How about the kid who's the primary wage earner from the family at 6 years old? Let's see how that goes.
I would say I would question that dynamic writ large.
Right. And probably nobody listening is in that dynamic, but it's like that.
Right.
It's a dynamic where you want to be looking at the other. It's ripe for evaluation. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to skip to one of our takeaways because maybe that would be particularly useful. If you are in that situation, if your kid is a TV star and the primary wage earner for your family, become deliberate about that commitment, right? That you want to make. I'm quoting Dr. Jeffrey Bernstein here. He's a child and family psychologist. That you need to be deliberate about your plans about things like this. And that you're going to check back in 3 to 6 months. If your hockey player is taking over the house, if your cranky kid is taking over the house, you acknowledge it to yourself, with your partner, whatever. And we're going to revisit this in 3 to 6 months. And maybe it's like, oh, well, now hockey season's over and it's fine. Or it's like, I feel like the tantrums have gotten a little better, but I still feel like this. You need to be really deliberate about reevaluating your values, as you were saying, and your priorities, and making sure that what feels like just the way it is, that there's not anything that can be done about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Including,
I think that's it.
Including, we didn't really talk about this part, but how the bandwidth thing can show up in your marriage or your relationship, that, like using a sick kid as an example, that happened in my own life when one of my kids was chronically ill, that the bandwidth of all of that fell on me. You know, the worry, the appointments, the execution, I'm not feeling well today, so I'm going to cancel my meeting so I can be home. You know, all of that. I did 90% of all of that without being deliberate about that, without either of us, my partner or me, being deliberate about that workload split. And then it leads to a lot of resentment. It's like, why I'm doing everything. You don't see what I do. Like, no, you don't see what I do because we've never sat down and talked about it and considered whether that might be redistributed. We just went with it. And as you said, something that's like, this is just for right now, all of a sudden becomes fossilized in amber is the way things have to be. You can still change, but it's harder.
I'm going to lay one of my favorite quotes on you, Amy. Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans.
Yeah.
John Lennon. You're like, I'm in an emergency with my child's health.
Yes.
Or, oh my gosh, my kid might go to the pros in hockey. Or I've got a kid with oppositional defiant disorder and we need to make sure that we never upset them because we're afraid of them. Like whatever the dynamic is, you start by thinking we're making these solutions for today. And then 5 years later, you are living a life you don't recognize at all. And I think that's what you got to dial in on. And you might say, we're going to fix the dynamic with the other kids and keep going for the hockey dream. You might say, hockey is making us all miserable. We're actually going to stop doing hockey. You might say, we need to figure out what is going on with this child with ODD and see if, very complicated example, but make sure that I'm recognizing with my other kids that like their safety and wellness is just as important as this. I don't think that anybody goes into these situations. I mean, I've seen this with like conflict in families. My sister and I got in a fight over planning the family vacation and we're mad at each other. And like 10 years later, we're not speaking to each other. Neither one of us would have ever signed up for never speaking again. But this, by the way, did not happen. My sister and I get along great, both of them. You start making small changes and then you find yourself in a situation that you're like, how the heck did we get to a point where like we are no longer allowed to close our doors because it's going to upset this one child?
Right.
And that is where I think if you're really deep in it, it might be time. A friend was just telling me about a service. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes. But it's like a family therapist who literally like watches your family on Zoom and you have an earbud in and they're like helping you with the dynamic. Like
a super nanny. Yeah.
It's like super nanny, but like they help you. It's a parenting coach kind of. And I think often a parenting coach sounds like, well, I don't need a parent. I know what I'm doing. But dynamics can creep up on you that are very complicated and very hard to manage. So I would say go for it.
You're in the space with the snake and they're watching you through the window and they're going to have
that's all it
points
is.
of view.
And like they might be able to say like, calm down. That snake is not venomous. You're going to be okay, you know, or they might be saying like, you need to call a snake handler and like get somebody in who can deal with this situation.
And I wanted to say too, that sometimes the bandwidth misapplication, it's unbalanced. That's just part of things, right? That this is normal, that you're going to find yourself giving 65% to one kid or another kid. And that's normal. And awareness is key. And sometimes you can control it and you can redirect it or address it, and you should do that. And sometimes you really can't. Sometimes there's a kid with a chronic need of more of your bandwidth, and you can't do anything about that, and feeling guilty about that will be useless. However, just acknowledging that is the case is still really useful. It's still important.
So important. And I think for me, an exercise that I do sometimes with my therapist is, what is the scariest possible truth, right? Like, what is the scariest possible scenario? I have a sick child who may not make it. I have a child with a disability that may need help forever. I have a child who I'm afraid of physically. Like, what is the scariest truth at the heart of that? Because once you stare that down, I think you can start making changes. Once you can get at that scariest thing and just look at it, first of all, I promise you it's not as scary once you say it out loud. I've said some scary things out loud. And second of all, it's the only way to start fixing it. And most things can be made better.
You solved it.
Yeah.
You solved it.
It's a hard one.
Bandwidth is balanced
really hard.
Don't feel
it's
bad about
really
it.
hard.
That's why I wanted to say, like, 100% of us are right now like, yeah, my bandwidth is being taken up by this kid or this challenge or this sibling of our own or whatever, right? Like, we're all going to be a little unbalanced. Just look at it. Just name it.
You're not looking for like perfect order and balance forever. It's just when it tips too far, like, do we know how to recenter?
Yeah. Before we go, I wanted to remind everybody that I have a new book. It's called Happy to Help, Adventures of a People Pleaser. It's kind of about some of the stuff we talked about today, just in terms of this is how it is and nothing can change. Actually, it can change, not overnight, but change is possible really slowly. So that's what the book is about. It's also funny. And
so funny, guys.
The audiobook, I read the audiobook. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Bookshop. We'll put the Bookshop link in the show notes. So if you haven't gotten it, check it out. I'd love for you to read it.
Check it out. I highly endorse Happy to Help. Available wherever books are sold. And with that, friends, we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, everybody.